The customer is always right. A lovely slogan, a catastrophic operational model. In the fluorescent-lit trenches of American retail, the return counter is a battlefield, a surreal landscape where logic dies and audacity reigns supreme. We are not here to judge the products. We are here to document the people who looked reality in the eye and demanded a refund. This is the chronicle of satisfaction guaranteed. 1. The Arbitration of Gravity. A customer returned a perfectly functional snow globe. The complaint wasn't a defect, a crack, or a leak. The complaint was that the snow fell way too fast. She was genuinely, profoundly disappointed that the miniature winter wonderland inside defaulted to what she perceived as a blizzard setting, rather than the gentle flurry she had pictured. She was, in essence, attempting to return the laws of physics for store credit. This wasn't a product failure. It was a grievance against gravity and fluid dynamics. She expected the manufacturer to have somehow negotiated a slower terminal velocity for the white plastic flakes, perhaps a viscosity adjustment? Unfortunately for her, the universe's terms of service are notoriously strict, and Isaac Newton's policies are always unequivocally non-refundable. 2. The Thermodynamic Grievance. In a moment of beautiful, delicious irony, a customer returned a sloshing, half-full bag of water. The product, purchased just 1 hour earlier, had been a 10-pound bag of ice. The complaint? It had mostly melted during her 45-minute drive home through bumper-to-bumper traffic. In the middle of a July heat wave, she wasn't just returning a product, she was filing a formal complaint against the second law of thermodynamics. She was demanding a refund because H2O had obeyed its inherent chemical properties. She expected the ice to have the moral fortitude to resist the ambient temperature, to hold its solid form out of sheer respect for her purchase. She was trying to return the state of matter itself. 3. The Hydrophobic Betrayal. A brand new swimsuit was brought back to the store, still damp and smelling faintly of chlorine. The reason for the return, stated with genuine indignation, was that it got wet when I went in the pool. Let that sink in. The customer was legitimately disappointed that a garment designed specifically for immersion in water had, in fact, absorbed moisture. She seemed to be under the impression that the fabric should have magically repelled the entire body of water around her, leaving her dry as she carved through the deep end. This wasn't a return. It was a formal grievance filed against the very concept of wetness. The product had failed its one, imagined job, defying the element of water itself. 4. The self-sustaining cactus myth. A cactus was returned for demanding too much care. This is a plant that evolved to survive neglect in the harshest deserts on Earth. The owner admitted to watering it once at New Year's and then sometime in June. He was genuinely perplexed that it wasn't self-sustaining, as if he'd purchased a botanical robot that should run on autopilot. Nature, it turns out, does not ship with a set-it-and-forget-it feature. Desert plants are drought-tolerant, not immortal. The live plant guarantee apparently excludes calendar-based agriculture and a fundamental misunderstanding of photosynthesis. The plant's dry mode, much like the customer's patience, was not, in fact, forever. 5. The Photosynthesis Paradox. A beautiful, vibrant, and very artificial houseplant was returned after 3 weeks. The customer was genuinely upset. Despite her dedicated daily watering schedule, the plant had completely, stubbornly failed to grow. She had spent 21 days nurturing a piece of injection-molded plastic, expecting biological results. She was now demanding a refund for this horticultural betrayal. The store employee was left with the surreal task of explaining that polyester and photosynthesis are not compatible concepts. Her green thumb, it turns out, was made of the exact same material as the plant, 100% synthetic, and completely impervious to reason. 6. The proof of purchase. In a spectacular failure to grasp an entire marketing concept, a customer returned a head of organic lettuce. The reason for this egregious product failure? She had found a tiny, harmless insect on one of the leaves. She saw this not as the very proof she had paid a premium for, evidence that the farm wasn't carpet-bombing its crops with toxic chemical pesticides. She saw it as a disgusting defect. She had purchased the idea of organic but was horrified by the reality of it. She wanted nature, but only if it was sterile, laminated, and free of any actual nature. The insect wasn't a bug. It was an unwanted verification of authenticity. 7. The Boneless Chicken Conspiracy. A complaint was lodged against a bag of frozen boneless chicken wings. The customer was absolutely furious. After cooking them, he discovered to his horror that they were just pieces of chicken breast, not, as he apparently believed, actual wings harvested from a specialized, genetically engineered boneless chicken. He was filing a formal grievance against both the grocery store and the entire field of avian biology. He felt deceived by the marketing, betrayed by the food industry, and baffled by the anatomical limitations of poultry. This wasn't a complaint about a product. It was a man staring into the void of processed food terminology and realizing the entire system was built on a lie. 8. The Furry Accessory. This one comes not from a store, but from a pet adoption agency. A woman attempted to return a cat she had adopted just 1 week earlier. The shocking reason, which she stated without a hint of irony, its black and white fur didn't match the new beige curtains in her living room. She wasn't looking for a pet, a companion, or a living creature. She was looking for a furry, self-cleaning accessory, a throw pillow that purred. The shelter, which deals in matters of life and death, was suddenly forced to operate as a high-end interior design depot, processing returns for sentient beings that failed a color swatch test. The cat, mercifully, was returned to safety, presumably to await an owner who wasn't decorating on a sociopathic whim. 9. The Beagles Alibi. A customer tried to return a 10-pound bag of dog food with only a few cups left rattling in the bottom. His official, solemn reason was that his dog didn't seem to enjoy it. This claim of canine culinary displeasure might have worked, except for the primary piece of evidence sitting right next to him. The dog, a very happy-looking, slightly overweight beagle, was wagging its tail so hard it threatened to achieve liftoff, staring at the bag with the laser-focused intensity of a true believer. The evidence was not on the man's side. The dog's entire physical form was a testament to exactly how much it enjoyed that food. 10. The Impatient Gardener. A customer returned a single packet of tomato seeds because, quite simply, they didn't grow. The timeline is the crucial part of this agricultural tragedy. He had purchased the seeds the previous afternoon, planted them in a styrofoam cup that morning, and was now back at the store at lunchtime demanding a full refund. A mature, fruit-bearing plant had not materialized on his desk in the 4 hours since planting. He was genuinely frustrated by this failure of instant gratification. He hadn't bought seeds. He believed he had bought a time-lapse video. He was attempting to return the entire process of agriculture for being too slow, filing a warranty claim against the very concept of botany. 11. The Laws of Combustion. The item being returned was a beautiful, vanilla-scented candle. The incredible complaint, stated with utter seriousness, "It got smaller after I lit it." The woman was genuinely upset that the wax was being consumed by the flame. She seemed to believe she had purchased a permanent, infinite light source that also happened to smell nice. She was, in effect, filing a warranty claim against the laws of combustion. She was horrified to discover that the fuel was the product. This wasn't a defective item. It was a 7th-grade science experiment that she had just failed, spectacularly. 12. The Salty Surprise. The item placed on the customer service counter was a large, cylindrical container of Morton salt. The official reason provided for the return was, and you cannot make this up, "This product is far too salty for my taste." He had purchased a container of pure, unadulterated sodium chloride and was shocked to discover its inherent chemical properties. What was he expecting? A subtle hint of brine? A whisper of the ocean? He had bought the very definition of salty, and was now returning it for being exactly what it was. It's a complaint so fundamental, so elemental, it borders on the philosophical. He was trying to return the periodic table. 13. The Dirt Disclaimer. A large 40-pound bag of premium potting soil was hauled up to the customer service counter. The reason for the return was stated with pure, unadulterated shock and disgust. "This bag," the customer announced, "is completely full of dirt." The employee was then faced with the surreal task of gently explaining that potting soil is in fact a special, nutrient-rich type of dirt, specifically designed for plants. The customer was appalled, as if they had been the victim of a bait-and-switch operation. They had purchased a bag labeled soil and were now horrified to find dirt. It was a semantic nightmare, a crisis of compost, and a full refund was apparently the only solution. 14. The functionally perfect antagonist. A retail nightmare story involves a customer returning an alarm clock. The official complaint, filed with genuine anger, was that the clock was too loud and abrupt, and that it kept waking him up in the morning. He was furious, that the product was performing its one and only function with 100% accuracy. He had purchased a device engineered for the specific purpose of disrupting sleep, and he was now demanding a refund because it had successfully disrupted his sleep. Its performance review was simply too good. He didn't want an alarm clock. He apparently wanted a quiet, polite box that would not wake him up. 15. The solar-powered vampire. Here is a classic case of user error elevated to high art. A solar-powered calculator was returned as defective. The customer furiously explained that the device completely stopped working every single night, without fail. After some gentle questioning, it was revealed that he was attempting to do his accounting in a pitch-black room. He was baffled and betrayed that a solar-powered item required the sun. He seemed to believe the solar part was just branding, a marketing gimmick. It turns out the sun's warranty expires promptly at sunset, and the calculator's ability to perform math was, unfortunately, dependent on the user's ability to understand basic light. 16. The overly effective tool. A set of professional-grade kitchen knives was returned for being, and this is a direct quote, unreasonably and dangerously sharp. The customer was genuinely angry that the knives had effortlessly sliced through his vegetables, rather than just gently bruising them into submission, as his old, dull blades did. He was expecting a prop from a serene daytime cooking show, but had instead received a functional and highly effective culinary tool. He was horrified by the product's quality. He didn't want a knife that cut. He wanted a knife that merely suggested cutting. 17. The successful failure. The product being returned was a classic wooden mousetrap. The customer, visibly shaken, was not complaining that it failed. He was horrified that it had worked. He called the result gruesome, effective, and deeply upsetting. He was demanding a refund because the trap, which is explicitly designed to trap and, let's be blunt, kill a mouse, had the audacity to successfully trap and kill a mouse. He had purchased a solution but was appalled by the outcome. He was hoping, perhaps, for a trap that would simply detain the mouse and hold it for a stern lecture before releasing it on its own recognizance. 18. The Inconvenient Solution. The complaint form for this return simply read, "Made an inconvenient mess." The product in question was a fire extinguisher. The customer had successfully, and one assumes quite frantically, put out a kitchen grease fire. He was now demanding a full refund because the white, powdery retardant had gotten all over his countertops and floor. Apparently, a burnt-down house would have been a much tidier, less inconvenient outcome for him. He was returning a life-saving device because it had prioritized saving his home over his cleaning schedule. The sheer audacity is almost flammable. 19. The Skull-Saving Defect. A bicycle helmet, featuring a massive spider-webbing crack right down the middle, was slammed on the counter. The man was furious. He was irate that the helmet broke after he fell off his bike and hit his head directly on the pavement. He completely, fundamentally, failed to understand that the helmet breaking was the entire point. It had performed its function perfectly. It had absorbed the kinetic energy of the impact, sacrificing its own structural integrity so that his skull would not have to. He was alive and conscious enough to complain because the helmet failed. He was demanding a refund for the very event that had just saved his life. 20. The Uncooperative Shovel. It's a simple tool designed for a simple job, returned for a simple reason. A brand new shovel was brought back because the act of digging was far more labor-intensive than advertised. The customer genuinely seemed to believe that the shovel was supposed to do most of the work for him. He was baffled that manual labor was, in fact, manual. He had purchased a piece of curved metal on a stick and was disappointed it wasn't automated. This wasn't a defective product. It was a defective work ethic. He was returning the tool as a formal protest against the concept of physical effort itself. 21. The Concrete Nail Conundrum. The complaint against a box of 2-inch steel nails was that they kept bending. This would be a valid, reasonable concern for a defective product. Except the customer then admitted with some frustration that he had been trying to hammer them directly into a solid concrete wall. As a fascinating secondary detail, he was performing this task using the heel of his dress shoe. He was returning the nails for their complete failure to defy the laws of physics and material science. He wasn't just returning the nails, he was returning his own failed home improvement project, blaming the tools for his catastrophic lack of judgment. 22. The Protective Film Paradox. An expensive, high-tech baby monitor was returned because the video feed was blurry and indistinct. The new parents were worried the internal camera was broken, convinced they had a defective unit that was endangering their child. An employee took the monitor, looked at the camera lens, and performed a highly technical maneuver. He peeled off the thin, protective plastic film that all new electronics ship with. The feed instantly became crystal clear. The parents had been staring at a blurry, out-of-focus warning label for days, convinced they were witnessing a technological failure. The only thing defective was their observation skills. 23. The Lens Cap Catastrophe. A brand new digital camera was returned because, according to the customer, every single picture I take is completely black. He was convinced the internal sensor was broken, the complex electronics fried. The store employee, a veteran of these technological tragedies, took the camera. He calmly, silently, removed the opaque black lens cap from the front. He then aimed the camera at the customer and snapped a perfect, crystal-clear, high-resolution photo of the man's stunned, dawning realization. The camera worked. The user, however, was still in sleep mode. 24. The Battery-Blocking Betrayal. A brand new universal remote control was returned for being completely dead on arrival. The customer swore he had tried everything. He had pointed it at his TV with increasing fury, banged it against his palm, and cursed the manufacturer. The store employee took the remote. He turned it over. He calmly pulled out the tiny, clear plastic tab that was sticking out of the battery compartment. A tab specifically designed to prevent the batteries from making contact during shipping. The remote immediately powered on. The customer wasn't returning a broken product. He was returning his own inability to read a 3-second setup instruction. 25. The Analog to Digital Crisis. A state-of-the-art Blu-ray player was returned for not playing my movies. The employee was about to process the refund until he saw the movies in question. The customer had brought them along as evidence. A dusty, moldering collection of bulky VHS tapes from the 1990s. He had been trying to physically shove the rectangular cassettes into the slim, disc-shaped tray. He was furious that this futuristic machine would not accept his analog relics. He wasn't just confused, he was expecting some kind of technological miracle, a magical conversion process that simply does not exist outside of science fiction. 26. The Bagel Setting Betrayal. A kitchen toaster was brought back because it was only toasting one side of the bread. The customer was deeply frustrated by this obvious manufacturing flaw. How could a toaster fail at its one job? After a quick 10-second inspection, the employee pointed to a small, illuminated button on the side of the machine. A button clearly labeled Bagel. The customer, it turned out, was living on the bagel setting. The machine was working perfectly. The user was the one who was malfunctioning. He had been unilaterally toasting one side of his bread for weeks, blaming the appliance for his own operational error. 27. The Psychic Navigation Failure. This next return was a formal complaint against technology for not being psychic. A man brought back a GPS unit, furious that it had led him to the wrong address. This happens, but after some gentle prodding, he eventually admitted to typing in the destination incorrectly. His fury, however, was undiminished. He insisted with a straight face that the machine should have known what I meant to type. He wasn't seeking navigation, he was seeking a $150 mind reader. He was returning a piece of satellite technology for failing to have telepathic capabilities. 28. The Sedentary Step Count Scandal. A smartwatch was returned for cheating on step counts. The customer bragged that he had successfully hit his 10,000-step goal every day while remaining seated on his sofa. His method? Wildly waving his arm back and forth during a Lord of the Rings marathon. He was demanding a refund because the watch, which uses an accelerometer to track motion, had correctly recognized his motion. He felt the watch should have recognized his intent, or lack thereof. Motion sensors track movement, not moral effort. He wanted a refund because the watch recognized physics, not his profound lack of willpower. 29. The 3-minute marathon. A top-of-the-line treadmill was returned after 1 week because, as the customer put it, it didn't make me any thinner. A perfectly valid complaint if true. The manager, suspicious, checked the machine's internal usage log. This digital diary told a different story. The treadmill had been used exactly once, for a grand total of 3 minutes, at the slowest possible walking speed. For the other 167 hours and 57 minutes of the week, it had served as a very expensive clothes hanger. He was returning the machine for failing to magically vaporize fat while he was in another room. 30. The Osmosis Workout. The audacity here is a testament to the power of wishful thinking. A woman returned a high-intensity workout DVD, complaining that she hadn't lost a single pound. When the clerk, bracing for the answer, asked if she had been doing the exercises, she replied with genuine confusion. "No," she said, "but I watched the whole thing twice." She had purchased an exercise program and was now returning it for failing to deliver results via visual osmosis. She expected to lose weight simply by witnessing other people's sweat. She was returning the product for her complete, philosophical misundersection of cause and effect. 31. The Immortal Tree. This is a legend of the retail world. A customer returned a completely dead, brown, needleless Christmas tree to Costco in mid-January. Her stated reason was simple, delivered without a trace of irony. It died, as if she had been sold a faulty, immortal being, a defective evergreen that was supposed to last forever. She had breached the contract of seasonal decor. To complete this masterpiece of audacity, she even presented the original receipt, which she had meticulously saved and stapled to the tree's leftover netting. The store, bound by its own legendary policy, reportedly issued the refund. 32. The Post-Mortem Steak Review. A man brought back an empty, blood-stained styrofoam steak package, demanding his money back. The complaint? The meat was unacceptably tough. As his proof, he offered a single, grisly, leftover bite that he had apparently saved. The steak's toughness, it seems, must have spiked dramatically on that final, fully consumed ounce. He had performed a thorough, plate-clearing investigation into the meat's quality, and was now ready to publish his findings at the service desk. The free taste test portion had officially and completely expired. 33. The Salty Hypothesis. A jar of pickles was returned with only one single, lonely pickle left floating inside. The complaint, handwritten on the form: excessive sodium. This conclusion, we must assume, was reached after a thorough, jar-long investigation. The customer had painstakingly eaten his way through 98% of the product, each bite a reluctant step deeper into his salty hypothesis. The empty space in the jar served as the peer review for his findings. The study was complete. The refund he was demanding was, apparently, his research grant. 34. The Aftertaste Investigation. The audacity here is something to behold. An empty bottle of very expensive wine was placed on the return counter. The customer wanted a full refund because he didn't enjoy the aftertaste. He insisted, with the weary air of a martyr, that he had to drink the entire bottle, glass by painful, agonizing glass, just to be absolutely sure. It was a grueling 750 milliliters long experiment in unhappiness. He wasn't returning a product. He was submitting his invoice for a long night of dedicated, high-alcohol quality assurance testing. 35. The Un-Delicious Hemisphere. A customer brought back exactly half of a watermelon, demanding a 50% refund. His airtight logic, presented with the confidence of a seasoned litigator, was that he had only enjoyed the first half. The implication was that the second half, which he had also presumably consumed, was subpar. Or perhaps he simply wanted to pay a la carte for his melon experience. The sheer, unblinking confidence in this transactional philosophy, this fractional refund policy he had just invented, was so stunning, the manager actually gave it to him. He was successfully refunded for the non-delicious hemisphere. 36. The 2-minute culinary tragedy. A frozen pizza was returned for false advertising. The photo on the box showed bubbling cheese, perfect pepperoni rosettes, and a golden brown crust. His result, he claimed, looked tragic. The tragedy was revealed when he explained his cooking method. He had baked this oven-ready pizza by placing it on a paper plate, microwaving it for 2 minutes, and then calling corporate. The packaging clearly showed an oven, not a radiation chamber. Microwaves are for reheating coffee, not for performing culinary miracles. This was a case of culinary malpractice, not product failure. 37. The first paper anniversary. In a stunning test of bakery policy, a couple tried to return the frozen, freezer-burned top tier of their wedding cake. The reason cited, with complete sincerity, was that it tasted stale. This return attempt was made exactly 1 year after their wedding day. They had dutifully followed the tradition of freezing the cake top, only to discover that year-old freezer-burned cake does not, in fact, taste fresh. The store's freshness guarantee, it turns out, expires well before the first paper anniversary. They were attempting to return a memory, and a stale one at that. 38. The midnight wardrobe. A high-end dress was returned on the Monday after a major local gala. The reason was a classic. It didn't fit right. This complaint was undermined by 2 small, crucial pieces of evidence. First, the faint, lingering smell of expensive perfume that was decidedly not the store's. And second, a small, carefully hidden wine stain on the inner hem. The dress didn't fit, but it had apparently fit just right for one glamorous, champagne-fueled evening. The store's generous return policy had just unwittingly sponsored her big night out. 39. The one-day suit rental. Some returns tell a complete 3-act story. A man brought back an expensive suit, also on a Monday, claiming the color was off in his lighting at home. It was a plausible, if common, complaint. Plausible, that is, until the clerk checked the pockets. Tucked deep inside the breast pocket was a crumpled program from a wedding that had taken place that past Saturday. The suit's color wasn't off. Its one-day rental mission was simply over. The mission had been a smashing success, and it was now time to debrief at the refund desk. 40. The post-holiday blues. A 7-foot inflatable snowman was returned to the store on December 27th. The reason listed, with brutal efficiency, product no longer needed. This was not a defective snowman. This was a retired snowman. The base of the inflatable was caked in mud and dried grass, clear evidence of its month-long dutiful tour of duty on the front lawn. It had brought joy. It had signaled festivity, and now it was being dishonorably discharged. The holiday spirit, it seems, has a 30-day return window. 41. The free rental. A man returned a professional-grade floor sander after 1 weekend of heavy use. He claimed it had suddenly stopped working. The machine, however, was covered in a thick, choking layer of sawdust. Its sanding pads were worn down to the backing, frayed and useless. It looked like a tool that had just survived a war. The man's living room floors, one employee noted, had never looked better. The defect had miraculously appeared the exact moment the weekend project was completed. The free rental period had officially expired. 42. The concrete evidence. A pair of steel-toed work boots were returned for being uncomfortable. This is a common complaint for new boots. Except these boots were not new. They were so caked in dried concrete, grime, and scuffs that they looked like they had just been excavated from a collapsed building. Comfort had clearly been sacrificed for a very successful, very messy, and very completed weekend project. The discomfort wasn't the boots' fault. It was the fault of the small quarry's worth of cement had waded through. 43. The drifter's regret. A guy tried returning a set of 4 completely bald tires. He argued they wore out too fast. This might have been a valid warranty claim, until he proudly admitted he'd spent the entire weekend using them in a competitive drifting and burnout show. He just felt, given the price, that they should have held up better to the extreme, purposeful, high-friction abuse. He was essentially returning the ashes of a bonfire and complaining that the wood was flammable. Burnouts were on his weekend schedule, but refunds were not. 44. The Plungers Performance Review. From the Customer Service Logbook, a masterpiece of the genre. A used toilet plunger was returned. The official reason provided by the customer was that it didn't perform as expected. However, the conclusive, unavoidable, and deeply unpleasant physical evidence still clinging to the tool told a much different, much more successful story. It had clearly seen a very intense tour of duty. Some jobs are just too messy for a refund. The plunger had done its job. The customer, however, was trying to undo his. 45. The perfect crime. A customer returned a brand new flat-screen TV claiming it was dead on arrival. Everything looked legit. The box was pristine, the paperwork was in order. Everything looked legit, that is, until an employee checked the serial numbers. The number on the TV inside the box was different from the serial number on the box. The customer had simply and quite brilliantly put his old, broken, identical model TV into the new box and attempted a perfect swap. It was the perfect crime, foiled by a tiny sticker and a database. 46. The expired gift. Here is a masterclass in shameless audacity. A customer returned a gift card, claiming it wouldn't work at the register. This is a common technical glitch. A quick check of the card's history, however, showed that the entire $50 balance had been spent on the company's website, just 1 hour prior to this return attempt. He wasn't returning a defective product. He was attempting a low-tech, digital-age bank heist. He was trying to cash out the same $50 twice, treating the gift card like an infinite money glitch. 47. The defective contract of chance. The logic on this one is so pure it's almost a work of art. A man tried to return a losing lottery ticket to a gas station, demanding a full refund. His argument was flawless in its simplicity. The ticket was a defective product. It had one primary function: to make him rich, and it had failed to perform this function spectacularly. He wasn't angry at fate. He was filing a warranty claim against probability. In his mind, he hadn't gambled and lost. He had purchased a small paper machine designed for wealth generation, and the machine was broken. He was treating the lottery not as a game of astronomical odds, but as a straightforward consumer transaction. 48. The 60-Second Swindle. A self-help book titled The 1-Minute Millionaire was returned for a full refund. The man's reason was simple, logical, and profound. I read the whole thing, he explained, and I'm still not rich. He had purchased the book the previous afternoon. He had given the book a full, good-faith 24 hours to work its magic, and his bank account remained stubbornly unchanged. He was not demanding a refund for the book. He was demanding a refund for the promise. Instant financial gratification was not included in the $19.95 price, and he considered this a grievous breach of contract. 49. The literary appeal. This one comes from a bookstore's creative complaints department. A woman returned a murder mystery novel she had just finished reading. She wasn't asking for a refund because of a printing error or missing pages. She was demanding one because she strongly disagreed with the ending and felt the author had cheated. She was not returning a product. She was attempting to file a formal literary appeal with the retail staff. She wanted her money back because the fictional outcome of the story did not meet her personal standards. It was a bad review, weaponized into a financial transaction. 50. The BOGO Heist. And for the grand finale, a customer successfully returned a buy one, get one free pizza. This is how the scam worked. He had eaten the pizza he paid for. He was now returning the free one, unopened, and demanding a full cash refund for it. He was attempting to weaponize a marketing promotion to generate pure, unadulterated profit. He wasn't returning a product. He was monetizing a loophole. It's hard to tell what's more impressive: the creativity of the request, or the fact that, in some cases, it actually works. The final receipt. The journey ends, but the line at the service desk is eternal. What we've witnessed here isn't just a collection of anecdotes. It's a raw, unfiltered documentary on the human condition. It's a study of the bizarre, beautiful, and terrifying disconnect between what we want and what is. In the grand, fluorescent-lit theater of American commerce, the satisfaction guaranteed policy has become a psychological escape hatch. It's no longer a simple warranty against manufacturing defects. It is now a bizarre ritualistic system for processing buyer's remorse, existential disappointment, and the nagging suspicion that life itself has failed to perform as expected. The customer returning the melted ice wasn't just returning water. She was returning disappointment. The man returning the 1-Minute Millionaire wasn't just returning a book. He was returning a failed dream. We've built a system where the consumer isn't just king. They are a capricious god, demanding that the universe bend to their will, or at least offer store credit. The items themselves are irrelevant. The steak, the suit, the snow globe. They are just proxies for a larger grievance. The true complaint, filed over and over in 1,000 different ways, is against reality. The modern refund has become a weaponization of optimism. It's the belief that any transaction can be undone, that every choice is reversible, that all consequences are someone else's responsibility. The audacity is breathtaking. The man returning the used plunger is a hero of our time, a pioneer of accountability-free living. He tried, he failed, and he concluded the problem was not his effort, but the tool. This is the new American dream, not to build a better mousetrap, but to return the one that worked too gruesomely and get your money back. As the service clerk scans the barcode on a half-eaten watermelon, they aren't just processing a transaction. They are a priest, absolving the customer of their sins of consumption. Go forth, the receipt whispers, and purchase unwisely no more. But they will. Oh, they will. Because in this narrative, the product doesn't have to be perfect. The purchase doesn't have to be smart. The act doesn't have to make sense. It just has to come with a receipt. The system is broken, exploited, and pushed to the absolute limits of absurdity. And yet, tomorrow morning, the automatic doors will slide open, the lights will hum to life, and someone somewhere will look at a dead Christmas tree in their living room on January 15th and think, you know what? It's worth a shot.